Welcome back to the channel. Once again, if you guys like the content that we're providing this week, then be sure to subscribe to the channel today so you don't miss any of the upcoming action. We have just wrapped up here in Norwalk, Ohio, and we're going to be heading out west for the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series season. We will be covering the races from home, but you'll be sure to see all the race recaps and highlights live here on Mighty Mac, so don't miss any of the action and subscribe today so you can keep up on the drag racing content. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
We will get you back to your feet. Week 4, week 1, top speed today.
So we once again have gotten an update from John Force Racing on the status of the 16-time Funny Car World Champion. Like I've done in the past, I'm going to read the statement in its entirety, and then we can try and maybe look forward into what this could mean for the future. Of course, this is still very early on in the process. This was a very emotional weekend for a lot of teams. There was a get well banners, 3 of them throughout the pits. In the morning today, they had Brittany Force's car and John Force's car lead the track walk. Bob Tasker was very emotional on the top end after his win here today, which you can watch the full in the recap, which will be posted here later tonight. But a really emotional weekend that ended off on a really high note with the good news from John Force Racing. The statement reads as following: Force moving forward in recovery process. Hall of Famer makes progress. There's still a long road ahead. After 5 tense days during which he was heavily sedated while battling the effects of injuries suffered in the 300-mile-per-hour crash of his drag racing funny car, 16-time NHRA World Champion John Force has begun to show daily signs of improvement. According to family members who have maintained a presence at the trauma hospital to which he was transported by air ambulance on Sunday. Early in the treatment process of his traumatic brain injury, TBI, he failed to follow the series of commands to open his eyes, squeeze the hands of his care providers, and move his extremities. Occasionally, he was able to respond with slight movements, but it wasn't until he moved from trauma intensive care unit to neuro intensive care unit on Wednesday that he began to gain some momentum. He became more consistent responding to commands and finally opened his eyes on day 5. Following days of failed attempts, his wife and daughters were overcome with emotion when he murmured the name John Force, and later, when prompted, gave a thumbs up. The biggest challenge has been managing his extreme agitation and confusion, which causes him significant distress. He has repeatedly tried to get out of bed and has been restrained. His doctors have humorously described him as a raging bull. However, he recognized his daughter's wife Lori and called them each by name and spoke the words, "I love you." This, along with continued daily progress, has uplifted their spirits. Brittany opted out of the cockpit of the Cornwall Tools Top Fuel Dragster at this week's 17th Summit Racing Equipment Nationals at Norwalk, Ohio, to remain with the family and support of her dad. Despite the welcomed progress, the 157-time tour winner still faces a long and difficult recovery ahead for the immediate future. Will remain in neurointensive care with visitation restricted to immediate family members only. John's family members extend their deepest gratitude to the medical professionals responsible for his well-being and recovery. They deeply appreciate the overwhelming number of heartfelt messages, prayers, support, and concern from the entire automotive and racing industries. Thank you to sponsors, fans, and the media for respecting the privacy of the Force family and the John Force Racing team members. So very good news. This news has been out for a little bit within the paddock of what was going on with John, but of course, it wasn't anybody's business on what was going on. But since they have said it, obviously, it's been a very tough week for John Force. Not only John Force, his family, and the entire NHRA group as a whole. Today's news came as a very welcomed surprise to a lot of people and a very good message to some. Bob Tasker alluded it to being a huge weight lifted off their shoulders without having to worry about John Force going into Sunday. On his return, I'm not even going to begin to speculate on what this could mean. This is still a very early developing story. With the fact that he is now able to be awake and somewhat talking to people, that shows really good signs for the future. Now, he may be able to return to the track sooner rather than later. I have no date on when that could possibly be or even an idea of how long this might take, but I would be fair to say that I wouldn't be surprised if we see John Force at a racetrack before the end of the year. Not so much in a racing stance, but just being on the starting line to support his team and her daughter as they continue to fight for a championship. This has been an incredibly tough weekend for everybody, with the passing of Lizzie Musi as well as Roger Richards Richards from Competition Plus. To have it end this way in some of the best racing that we've seen all weekend is a very, very welcomed ending to what has been an incredibly grieving week. So that's going to wrap up the video here. We will have a full race recap, which you can watch down below. And again, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more updates coming out. If I hear any more, you'll be sure to hear about it on here first. But again, I'm not going to begin speculating or even try to break any news first. So you'll be hearing it at the same time that John Force Racing releases an update. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.